Sometimes when you are just browsing YouTube, you can come across things that are interesting to you. Other things that are confusing. And some things that can be downright annoying. It was one of these times of scanning YouTube when I found a channel pointing out what was wrong with the Bible. Unusual amongst atheist-based channels. And I'm not given to naming and shaming on this particular channel. I prefer to be cordial. But since this is going to get pretty petty, I'm not going to be quiet. The channel in question is called The Friendly Atheist. I find that slightly ironic, but let me get something straight. I know some friendly atheists. And they aren't like this guy. Granted, I get on with them, and we respect each other's views, within reason, and even when we don't agree. We are willing to have a cordial discussion. However, this guy is one of those denouncers that goes further, far from just asking for clarification or whether I agree with a certain point and whether that should technically be considered biblical. As I said, he's made videos explaining what was wrong with the Bible. And not just in a broad term like many people seem to be doing, or even a random series of quotes that they clearly don't understand, haven't looked into the context of, and refuse to see in any other light than the one they cast. But he's going systematically, chapter by chapter. This isn't unreasonable by any stretch. As I said, quite a few atheists do things like this, and I'm doing something similar with the Great Bible Project. But two things struck me about this guy. First, he's done similar stuff on another channel some years back. And incidentally, that channel inspired this one, The Atheist Voice. It was one of his videos that triggered the channel that was originally called The Christian Philosopher, that has now developed into The Warrior Pilgrim. Second, he's doing the exact same thing, this is quite controversial, as many hardcore theists do with the Bible. Only he's doing the opposite. Now you may think that's an oxymoron, with the emphasis on moron in particular. But taking the Bible literally, I'm attempting to understand the context, origins, and explanations of how it can make sense in the basic understanding of common science is just as ill-advised, whichever way your views take you. Now, I don't like either take, since one refuses to accept the basis of understanding that people have built up over hundreds of years, discovery, and the other refuses to accept the knowledge that we can gain from this source of information, which, if nothing else, is a look into the way people can and do perceive the world. And that is a fascinating subject in itself. Now you could say, come on, he's just doing what all atheists do, or denouncers at least, just making fun of the fundamentalist viewpoint. And that is true. Many comedians have done the same over time. But one video that stood out for me, and I feel I need to call it out right now, is looking at God's kill count, based on another atheist's work. I'm not saying he hasn't stolen it, because he clearly states that he was given permission to do so by the author. But I've taken some basic numbers that were around the internet that seem to correlate quite closely to what he said in this video, because long before he did anything about it, as far as I know, and did a video with a similar theme. I think it was just about last year. That would have been Inhuman God. I recommend watching the video, but I have a feeling we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of it here. Whilst I am terrible at leaving links, you'll probably get the gist of what I'm trying to say here. So basically, I don't remember who wrote the book that the Friendly Atheist is quoting at the moment. I don't remember the name of the book off the top of my head. I think it's something like My Arrows of Blood, something like that. I may as well try and link that video in the description as well, if I remember. But during that video, they ran through all the deaths that were sanctioned by God in one form or another, resulting in him having a significant kill count. Now, I feel obliged to say that is not an insignificant number. And in this case, they were being sensible. They weren't going just, he killed that person, he killed that person, he killed that person. He definitely killed all those. Okay, quite a few people died there. He might have something to do with it, but in the Bible, everything's God, so he definitely killed all of them. They didn't go completely indiscriminate. They did focus on two counts, one being verified and the other being an estimate. Even the verified says that he killed over 2 million people, over 3 million people, I think. Whereas the highest estimate was nearly 25 million. Now, whilst they had a heavy bend on God being the most murderous one in this situation, and they were glossing over some of the facts and simplifying the stories of some of the killings to make it seem even worse, I do have to give them credit for that score. However, I feel obliged to look at it in a slightly different way. You have to remember that if we're going by how murderous God is, just a few thousand at one point, or a few million at one point, doesn't mean he's always going to be killing. Not really. So let's see over how much time those killings took place. Since they're taking depth in the Bible and going by the fundamentalist timeline, they include every sanctioned death from Noah's flood, which is estimated to be in 2400 BC, and the death of Jesus, which was measured in 30 AD. So let's go generous for them and say 25 million deaths in 2,430 years. Plug it into a calculator, and you get around 10,300 deaths per year. On its own, not a pleasant number. And if you try seeing how many deaths there'll be in, say a day, that's about 28. Which pretty much comes to about a couple of people every hour, give or take. I know I sound a bit blasé about it, but it's actually quite serious. Actually, one person going from town to town, killing everyone. doing that non-stop for over a year. So not pleasant at all. So, does that mean we are better than God? Well, for that we have to have a moral high ground. And as I said in my video about God not being human, I don't think we do. To be fair, let's look at our own death toll that we created over the years. Let's be fair and try to avoid any wars that we've had that have any religious motivation. And alarmingly, there's actually quite a few. So say, the First World War, that was more about empire building and expansion. The deaths of the war were calculated at 2.7 million people from the military and 10 million civilians. That's about 9.7 million people killed in the war. Those are verified numbers and you can go by the historical sites. Granted, not up to God's estimated 20 million in the flood. In 4 years, that's no small number. And we can go further. The American Civil War took at least 620,000 lives in battle. The Vietnam War took 1.35 million. And in just one theatre of the Second World War, in Russia, it was estimated that 20 million on the Soviet side alone were killed in that conflict. Whether that was military, whether that was civilians or not, I don't know. And that was just one theatre of war. The Second World War covered much of the globe. And whilst one can say it did have a religious bend due to the Jews being affected and the Holocaust being a large part of it, certainly being a major part of history lessons, the problem is it's mostly focused on the propaganda that they were wronged by the Treaty of Versailles. And that wasn't a religiously motivated thing. That was purely political. It was an expanding Germany. That's how I'm interpreting history. Granted, it's overly simplified. If you want to find the details, go ahead, look on the sites. I'm not stopping you. But if we take all of those conflicts, add those death tolls together, just those ones that I mentioned, we get around 40 million deaths. Now that is already twice what God did in the flood alone. If we focus on how long those conflicts lasted, adding the length of those wars together, bearing in mind none of those wars overlapped in any way, we have 40 million deaths in 32 years. That comes out to 1.25 million per year. I don't know what that would be in terms of how many per day. But to give God a chance here, let's be a bit less stingy and go for the entire span of time that those wars took place, since I didn't just pick out the years or days that God was killing people, I did the entire span of the Bible that those people were looking at. So those wars I mentioned took place between 1861 and 1975 inclusive. That is 114 years. That still makes an annual death toll of approximately 350,000. That's 35 times more than God in a much greater span of time.
Just to give further context, I just plugged in the numbers, and if God is killing one person every hour or so, then mankind is killing nearly 40 in that time. That is a significant difference.
So going by that logic, if God is a murderer, killing over 10,000 people a year, then humans are masochists, and we don't really have any excuses for such slaughter. Since they don't seem to have made any attempt to justify God's actions in his crusades, killing all those people, I'm not going to defend mankind here. They may think, I'm just being prejudiced against this man because he's an atheist. You may be right. But to be honest, his content makes my blood boil, mostly because he sounds so condescending when he's giving his videos. I don't know if I sound condescending to people. I may do. But when you hear him talk, you get the feeling he's trying to patronise. I am very tempted in more than a few videos to say, just read the Bible and see what it says for yourself. After all, during my Great Bible Project, I'm educating myself whilst I'm doing that. The problem is, he's already reading the Bible. And what's slightly embarrassing, he's ahead of me. I finished Genesis in late January. He's not only on the book of Exodus already, but he's also going chapter by chapter, which, as I explained in my final video in January, takes a lot longer. There are 3 reasons for this that I can determine. Firstly, he seems like a professional YouTuber. For those of you that don't know, if your channel is popular enough and gets enough views, you can start monetizing your videos, and people use this often to go pro and do little else. This is not being lazy, by the way, as it does take a lot of work to get videos sorted. So, in this case, he has all the time in the world to do his research, go over and make the videos relevant and make the content good. It's where I'm falling apart. I'm pretty sure his popularity on his original channel helped with this, because whilst this current channel is very young, the fan support he got on that channel would have swung over to this one to get him to the required level. As far as I remember, the Atheist voice, I don't know how many subscribers it had, but I think it's an equivalent level to the Friendly Atheist now. On the other hand, I don't really have any plans to go pro. I have a day job. I'm a van driver and a blacksmith. Vans don't drive themselves, not even in lockdown. I know it sounds like an excuse for not having any subscribers, but when you factor in the study, the typing, the recording, editing, and upload time, and bear in mind I'm an outdoors person. I favour being outside and active in my work as well as my free time. It's easy to see why I would lose interest in working on a computer every day. So as my videos may suffer because of it and my message may not get out there, I'm still not planning on doing this full time. Second, he's not making the effort to learn. It seems more like a pick up and laugh without taking the time to study and understand what each one is trying to say. He has the time, but he doesn't seem to be using it wisely. I, on the other hand, am trying to learn and share, as I don't know everything, and I never pretend to. In fact, in my first video as Warrior Pilgrim, I said, I'm not perfect, I'm bound to contradict myself, as I don't know everything. The Friendly Atheist, on the other hand, is stating obvious things that don't necessarily explain anything. And it's just making fun of the interpretations, as far as I can see. Thirdly, he has a head start. He started his Bumble videos at least a year ago. I haven't checked the date exactly. Whilst I started in September. I haven't checked to see if he's done all of the videos, or all of the chapters, sorry, and if so, what all of them contain. Mostly because he sounds so condescending, I lose the will to continue listening. So, what's this mean for this channel? Am I going to convert him? Am I going to be the classic Christian YouTuber and whine about him? Well, since this video consists of the latter mostly, I think that answers that one. But the former, interesting enough, is a no. I can tell when a person isn't willing to change their view on something, regardless of which side of the argument they're on. The only way I can describe it is similar to one young lad who tried bullying me at school. Yeah, I say young lad because he was in year 9 at the time. I dropped back to year 11. That put about 3 years between us. And I say tried because he just wasn't in the right place at the right time. I'm not entirely sure how it started. I think it started when he thought I'd said something uncouth about his family and wanted to do me one in retaliation. I generally had no idea where he got that idea from. He and his friends tried cornering me inside and outside school, but due to me having experienced far worse bullying in my youth and using my bike to get to more places than just school, I was less inclined to stick around and had the leg power to get the heck out of there on more than one occasion. Could he have done it? Maybe. Was he justified in doing it? Well, I'll be honest, his heart was in the right place. His head, on the other hand, wasn't. And that was the nub of the matter. He misinterpreted something, got too worked up about it, and went about dealing with it in the wrong way. I have a feeling this is the same thing of a sort. The Friendly Atheist, he's got all the skills to present a fairly reasonable argument, and his heart is most certainly in the right place. I can't deny that. He isn't just someone who hates people of religion. I don't know what his experience with religion and religious people is, but I'm inclined to think that it wasn't good, and his own investigations into religion hasn't yielded any happy results, and that has only soured his feelings even further. If I were to guess, I'd say this is why he does his YouTube videos. Share the negatives of religion with people across the platform. Granted, that means this is likely a confirmation platform for people with similar views. Which is possibly a reason why he got so many videos, so many views and subscribers in just over 18 months. Not saying his videos are bad, by the way, but quite often people do go looking for confirmation. And I'm sort of bigging up my channel against his, but in my case, I'm not looking to confirm people's beliefs. I'm not looking necessarily to deny them. I'm looking to learn and develop as a person and as a follower of God. Whether that's misguided or not, I leave it up to you to decide. But at the end of the day, I'm here to learn. I'm not here just to put out ideas that people want to hear. If you don't believe me, check out my video playlist, The Big Three, which consists of 4 videos, ironically. So does that make him a bad man and likely to go to hell for this? Well, one thing I remember him saying on The Atheist Voice is that religion teaches the right thing for the wrong reasons. Namely, doing something out of fear of God rather than for the sake of a good thing. And in a brief overlook of his videos, I saw one about why we shouldn't tell our children about God, where he says morality doesn't require someone to get a reward. And it would be better to do the right thing because it's the right thing, rather than just do it because you'll get punished or you'll get a reward. In short, promoting goodness for its own sake. Thing is, I believe that's what God wants. He wants us to do the right thing for its own sake. He just knows we need a bit of stick and carrot to get us on the right track, since the number of people who are truly good in this world is alarmingly small. Seriously, you wouldn't believe it. So that's looking pretty good for him. And then I came across his video advertising hell, and my argument just fell apart. Among the things he said about hell is, if you sinned once, you may as well sin again. Your mates are going to be there since you all had fun, so why not go there? Plus, you'll be warm. Yeah, you can see where this is going. Not only is that a stereotype of hell that they're talking about, but it's also missing one thing that every atheist seems to forget about hell. And for that, to explain why, I'm going to another comedian, the great Rowan Atkinson, in his famous comedy sketch, Welcome to Hell. He was the devil, welcoming people to hell. He did all manner of jokes, including, can you hear me at the rack? Would you stop screaming? And so forth. Constantly mentioning religious jokes and so forth that just fitted in the moment. And one of the last jokes he made, when someone asked if they could go to the toilet, to which he answered, I'm afraid we don't have any toilets. If you read your Bible, you would see it was damnation without relief. So if you didn't go before you came, you are not going to enjoy yourself very much. But I believe that's the idea. And that's the thing. The whole idea isn't to just think with people who have done bad stuff. It's not to enjoy yourself. The only way I can think of to describe it is like comparing an ancient Chinese water torch with napping in a room with a leaky window over your head. You don't have to take my word for it being drastically different. Mythbusters have done something like this. There's a test of that. In one test, they had Adam Savage on a comfortable airbed with a leaky tap just over his head, and he was perfectly relaxed for hours. He was perfectly fine until he needed to go to the. So, yeah, not easy. Whereas Carrie Byron, she was on the makeshift rack with the water torture device over her head, fully calibrated to be the most excruciating possible. And here's the important thing. During that test, she had all the safety officers around her. People were making fun. They were there. They actually cared about her. They were looking after her. They were ready to pull her out at a moment's notice if she decided no, she didn't want to do this. And even then, she had a panic attack halfway through the test. Now, this is not just some terrified lass. This is Carrie Barron, a mythbuster, a super tough woman. And she had a panic attack in the middle of a test. I think that just shows how bad that Chinese water torture is. And I think we have the scale there, or at least a rough representation of it. And Savage, on an airbed, with a leaky tap over his head, that's a campfire with hot chocolate and your old mates smoking marijuana if you want. Carrie Byron on the water torture bench. That's hell. That is literal torture. And here's the thing, in this case, you can't turn off the fires of hell. You can't bail out at a moment's notice. You're there. You're stuck. I don't know what torture's like. I've been bullied before. I know the fear. I know the terror. I've never been tortured, though. I've never been abused like that. I've never been tortured. I cannot begin to describe it. So, downplaying the worst experience we can ever have, regardless of whether you believe in it or not, to essentially just snapping by a campfire with your mates forever, which is basically just Valhalla, which is the Viking heaven. That is basically putting a big tick in the go to hell box. Add that to ignoring the fact that Jacob's daughter, Dana, was raped by the men her brothers killed in the city after they were circumcised. Seriously, this is before they even asked her to get married. Son literally raped her. The Bible doesn't hold back with that. It actually says rape. And furthermore, he's encouraging people to repeat sins, which, according to my own studies, is the main reason Adam and Eve were thrown out of Eden. And you could say that the prosecution sending him to hell is perfectly reasonable. So is he hellbound? Well, the friendly atheist, his morals are sound, and better than some people that I know of, and that includes quite a few fundamentalist Christians. His attitude, on the other hand, is comparable. His orientation, not so much, and therefore making it likely he's going to go to hell. Bear in mind when I say orientation, I mean orientation of attitude. Like I said, wanting people to sin again and again, downplaying the worst torture ever, ignoring torture itself. He's basically not the person you want as a grief counsellor, as far as I can tell. That means he'll probably go to hell not because he needs to, but because he thinks it's better than heaven. That's his choice in the end. He may own his actions, But when you get to hell, there is no going back. So again, am I going to try and convert him? No. No point. Is he a goner? Probably not. Instead, I'm going to offer him a challenge. I am the warrior pilgrim. I hereby lay down the gauntlet. Leave the challenge open, you can decide how to do it. That's the old-fashioned way. I lay down the challenge, you decide the weapons and the place we shall fight. I will be honest, I am hoping for a discussion, not expecting to convert him. The only rule I insist on is that we keep it civil, as much as possible. I will admit I have ranted on this video, so if I've overstepped that line already, I do apologise. If it comes back to bite me, that is my due, I accept that. However, if this just devolves into insult match, where we're just slagging each other off, the instigator and the one that continues to do so, even when it's called off, has lost. That's the rule. We're both adults, we should be able to discuss without getting to such petty squabbles. Before we say anything, people do that. I had one person challenge group Christians with a long list of things, possibly copied off an atheist forum. He clearly didn't study them himself. I took a look, I did the studies, I gave a counter-argument. He just launched into insults. Now, I've got thick skin. Like I said, I've been bullied a lot over the years. So, I know when bullying is happening. Does that mean I'm flimsy? No. I can take banter, I can take a few insults. Because when it starts purely being insults and not sticking to the debate, that is when the debate is no longer an issue. Because in my book, if you just go through insults, you've lost the debate. Plain and simple. That's my only rule. So with that, I look forward to see how you respond to this challenge, friendly atheist. I'm interested to see what we can learn from each other. This should be fun. So, I hereby lay down my gauntlet, salute you, and I shall see you on the field of battle. And for those of you watching, may God be with you.